Ladies and gentlemen, round 15 has just finished. It is past the mid-season, but I thought let's go all the way back and take a look at my very early preseason predictions. Now, as you can see on the screen, these were my preseason predictions. What I thought the final home and away AFL ladder would look at the end of the 2024 season. I believe I made these predictions around a month to 2 months before the season, probably a month before the season started. Once the trades, once everything was sorted out, coaching changes, higher up changes. Yeah, like I said, player trade, the draft as well. And I believe this was just after the Clayton Oliver incident. We had a pretty good idea at the time what the ladder was gonna look like. And my oh my, we have some absolute stinkers here. It is quite interesting. We'll start off at West Coast. Now, I've made it that you can't actually see the rest of the ladder so far, but right now you'll be able to see my 18th place position, which is the West Coast Eagles. Why did I do West Coast in 18th? Well, at the time I thought injuries, shocking list, coach has lost it, coach is too tired, Harley Reid, the hype's great, but he will not transform that team into anything more than 18th place. And well, I was well and truly wrong. We all know who is in 18th, and we all know that West Coast, well, they are pretty likely to not finish 18th. There is still a minor chance given that North are in decent form, and Richmond, once their injuries are back, they could escape the hood, escape 18th place. But we will say for now that West Coast have done better than what they have been here in 18th place. Now 15 to 17. Who do you think I have? I have got Geelong in this category of clubs. Now, what was I thinking here? My thinking was that their form would be what it is right now. I did not think they would come out the blocks and be the final undefeated team in the competition, which is just fucking remarkable. How they did that, how they managed to do that, I do not know. Now, the other two I'm happy with, North Melbourne and Richmond. I had Richmond in 17th, North Melbourne in 16th. So the bottom three, conclusive, it's correct. Some people didn't have Richmond in their bottom four. I definitely had them in their bottom three, let alone bottom four. And as you can see, that has, relatively speaking, come to fruition. Geelong in 15th. Like I said, I just thought they didn't have the list. I thought the young talent wasn't there. I thought the likes of Dangerfield and, Hawkins would severely drop off. I did think, they do have Cameron, who was a player good enough to probably get them out the top four. And to be honest, they have looked worse and worse and worse the weeks that go on. By the time the season's done, they may not even make finals, and the shout of them in 15th, albeit it still will be outrageous, but it won't be as bad as what it looked like a month ago. A month ago when Geelong were in the top four, that shout looked awful. But the fact they're now out of the top four, they're nearly out of the top 8. In fact, the form they're in, they will be next week. You think that it's not the worst prediction. We'll go to 12 to 14 next. And as you can see, I have some interesting shouts here. The first is Gold Coast in 14th. I think Gold Coast currently are like 11th or 12th, maybe 13th. So that's not an outrageous shout having them that low. Now, it's still incorrect, and it's still undervaluing and undermining what Dimmer could do. I had the best reason for this. I just thought it would take far too long, or not it would take far too long, but it would take more than a season for the players to adjust to Damien's Hardwick style, because those Gold Coast players were so used to Stewie Drew's style. The Gold Coast players have said, get fucked that prediction, and they've actually done really well. Now, they cannot win away from home, and for that reason, they probably won't make the 8. They're looking like a 12th, 13th, 11th, maybe 10th if they're lucky to place team. So I'm happy with that shout. The Fremantle shout is pretty shit. Right now, they're nearly in the top 4. By the time I release this, maybe this week, next week, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm recording this as of the end of round 15. They are well and truly far away from that 13th place position I thought they would be. To be honest, I'm surprised I didn't put them lower. I know I did another one a month before this prediction, and I had Fremantle in 15th place. So I have very much undermined them for every prediction I've done. To be completely honest, I still don't rate them that much. But yeah, I got that prediction completely and utterly wrong. The St Kilda one I also got pretty okay, I would say. Like right now, they're in and amongst that bottom 4 shout, but with the way Adelaide, who we'll talk a little bit later, the way they're going, geez, they could escape the bottom 4 St Kilda. But them in 12th place, a little bit of an overstatement, but I'm still not entirely unhappy with that prediction. Now on to 9th to 11th. 9th to 11th is a really interesting one. As you can see, I do have some fringe teams that are there right now, notably the Western Bulldogs and Hawthorn. Not many people had Hawthorn in 10th place. I had them really high. I backed them really well. When the injuries started to hit towards pre-season, I was a little bit dubious. I thought they might drop down to 12th to 13th, but they've since got their form back and they are one of the most informed teams in the comp as of speaking. Big wins against decent opposition, you know, they spoiled the Dustin Martin 300 party. They've done really well. There's no negotiating that, but will they finish in 10th? I'm not so sure. Given that right now they're in like 13th, but in good form, do they have the capabilities to? Maybe, but to be honest, I don't expect the form to continue on. Having Essendon in 11th is a pretty poor shout. Right now they're looking like they could potentially make top 4. Now they've obviously been top 4 for most, if not all, of the season, but I still think they'll slip out that top 4 just, you know, I think the teams of Giants and Brisbane have that potential to break in there, but them at 11th place, regardless of where they finish, because they will make top 8, it's still a bad shout. And I take it back. I'm surprised Brad Scott has done so well with the list. They've done so well this season. They've made everyone look a fool in their predictions. And yeah, for the doggy shouts, like the Dogs were always a fringe team. I think most people had them around that sort of 9th place. They might still make the 8. They have the potential, but as of speaking, 9th place looks pretty fucking correct for them, and I'm happy with that. Now from positions 5 to 8, and this is where it gets really bad for me. As you can see, there are some good shouts. The Giants in 5th place, they might actually finish there dead on. Put Adelaide in 6th place. As of speaking, a lot of people with the hard run they have them falling out that top 8. But as of speaking, they are, I believe, in 8th place, maybe 7th, I'm not quite sure, but they're on the fringes. Adelaide obviously in 7th, we'll get to them, and then Melbourne in 8th. Let's start with Melbourne in 8th. Melbourne in 8th place is not an entirely bad shout still. Now, with the form they're in and the Petrarca injury, they should slide down to 10th, maybe 11th, but they still have many premiership players. They still have a good core, you know, team, Max Gawn, Oliver, if he can find that form. They have the potential to make 8, but no higher than 8th, I think. Honestly, it's that close to top 8 this season. You have to be much better than what Melbourne are. Right now, they'll lose more games, not looking good. We'll skip Adelaide. Like I said, with Port Adelaide, I'm not mad about that. The thinking behind that was good team, but a bit young, and that's what they're looking right now. Some injuries have haunted them this season. You know, having their captain Connor Rosie out for a extended period of time isn't good for them, but them in 6th place, not mad about that. They might finish just outside the 8, like I said, but I'm still not mad about that. And the Giants in 5th, pretty bang on. Adelaide in 6th place. This is my worst prediction in terms of differential. Right now, they are in 15th spot. Having them in 6th place, 7th place, sorry, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 difference. There's an 18 gap between Adelaide and Geelong. Adelaide and Geelong, if I just flipped Adelaide and Geelong, this list looks phenomenal. But unfortunately, I don't know what's happened to Adelaide. The fun's out of the team. Matty Nicks doesn't have the young players firing. You know, losing Tex Walker has really affected them negatively. Losing more players to injury, it's just not been a great season. And to be honest, I think next season they'll be able to bounce back. But this season is a complete write-off for Adelaide. Definitely my worst prediction, having them in 7. And finally, 1 to 4. Who do I have finishing at the home and away season? Now, I believe I only had this as home and away, not the eventual flag winners. But as you can see, 1 to 4, I've got Carlton in 1, Collingwood in 2, the Swannies in 3, and then the Lions in 4. 3 of those teams will make top 4. Brisbane Lions are the one team that I think they still can. I think that spot is open because, like I said, Essendon are frail, but as of speaking, that's more unlikely than likely. Now, Brisbane just had a really horror start, but since they've got the form back, they have looked like a top 4 team. As for the Swans, I did predict them to do really well this season, but not as well as what I thought. How the fuck they are in 1st place with a 3-game win, 3-game lead over 2nd place, sorry. They can lose the next 3 games, and with the percentage they have, they'll still be top of the ladder. They could play their 2nd tier side for 3 weeks and not care about the outcome, because to be honest, they shouldn't really care they finish 1st. They just need to finish top 2. So they've got an even bigger buffer. It's great for Sydney. Their injury list has been great this season. They haven't had injuries. Now, the injuries likely will come, and I think they'll be able to handle it. But thus far, they've been really lucky, and they've been really good. And that prediction is something that some people had, not many, but I'm pretty happy with that one. Them in 3rd place. Collingwood in 2nd place, I'm happy with as well. I still think they can get into the top 2. It's probably them or Carlton who are fighting for 2nd place. And I honestly think when it comes down to it, I would back Collingwood more than Carlton, because Collingwood have loads of injuries right now. They've got young players playing. When those injuries and the injured players come back, the positions, the fight for spots will be crazy, and then people will really play well because they want to keep that spot in that team, because they will know when September comes, Collingwood had the best chance of any team, if not better than any team, to win the flag. So that's why I back Collingwood a bit more, finishing 2nd, but I think it's a good prediction. And Carlton in 1st, quite a few people had them in 1st place. I had them in 1st place. 2nd place, pretty gassed with that as well. So overall, these were my very early preseason predictions, and that's what I thought, and looking back at it's quite funny. Terrible shouts: Geelong, terrible shout; Fremantle, pretty bad shout; Essendon, poor; and Adelaide is just horrific. That is a horrific shout that I will never live down. But that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, follow the TikTok, FTFooty, and I'll be seeing you in another video.